Welcome to the CEER workshop for the Board of County Commissioners. I'll call the meeting to order. Commissioner Delaney, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening again. Welcome, everyone. We will go right into our citizen recommendations, and for the folks who signed up ahead of time. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need to say something first? No?
No, when you're ready to start.
Oh, okay. All right. And so I can start with the.
Well, yeah, I think what we'd like to do, if you would, I'm going to introduce Rachel Horst, who works in Space Coast Government TV,
Okay.
and she'll go through. We're going to try to do it in the same format how the board did the workshop on tourism, which will call up the individuals who signed up. They've done it in the order in which they were submitted by the calling to indicate that they were interested in participating. We got some that were like the very first day and right until the cutoff date. So Rachel also has a few introductory comments she can make about it broadly, and I think we got some information that I think you might have some at the end. So we've got that, I think, ready to go as well. So with that, let me turn it over to Rachel.
As Frank said, I'm Rachel Horst. I'm the Public Information Officer, and I'm here representing the Communications Department. Just so everyone in the audience knows, and of course our commissioners know, we did receive 77 total recommendations from January 1st to January 30th. And those were from 65 different residents. Following the board's discussion and action at the February 11th meeting, we did go back through with Frank to review those and determine that 13 of those recommendations were outside of our jurisdiction, so those are not part of this. We notified the remaining submitters, and their recommendations were, as Frank said, put on the agenda in order of their RSVPs to us. So 11 presenters will be speaking on 14 Speak Up Brevard recommendations. Mr. Chair, how much time would you like to allot?
3 minutes each, please.
Okay. We will start with, I'm
so
sorry.
Ooh, this is loud.
to
Is
turn
there
it back down.
any appetite because we do have a allotted time of 3 hours and so many people came to participate today, is there any appetite to extend the time to 5 minutes?
I think historically it's been 3 minutes, so I'll leave that to the board. Any discussion on that item? All right, it'll be 3 minutes.
I'd like to make a motion then to extend the time for 3 minutes. Or I mean to 5 minutes.
Do we have any idea how many comment cards that we'll have toward the end either?
I have 8 right now.
Oh, okay. All right, anyone on the motion? All right, it'll be 3 minutes.
All right.
Rachel.
We will begin with Heather Elko, followed by Terry Mott.
I would like to say I have 3 that I would like to speak about
Yes, ma'am.
today.
Yes.
So does that still mean
That's
3
3 minutes each. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry? Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
And I won't take that much, but I can speak slower, so that will be nice. I was ready for anything. So can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Heather Elko, and I'm at 566 Thomas Barber Drive, Melbourne. And I've been a resident here for 45 years, and this is a great opportunity. I want to thank you for it. So my first idea that I want to submit is that the county commission call for and hold summit meetings occasionally with the city mayors and councils when there are issues that would be best addressed cooperatively. Some issues in Brevard can't be neatly compartmentalized as county or city issues. We residents feel that we live in an umbrella, and the umbrella is the county, and many of us are city residents also, and a lot of times those lines blur. An example is homelessness. It's a countywide health, safety, and economic issue, though it has traditionally been treated as just a city's issue. I would like the commission to call a summit meeting of yourselves and city mayors and council members to discuss and brainstorm homelessness. It can't hurt to work together to problem solve on this issue or any future issues that might come up that need joint cooperation for the best result. This idea holds no risk and very minimal expense, and it has clear upsides. One is the overall improved appeal that our county will have for tourists. And a second benefit is that better off citizens, I include myself there, will be comforted to know that the problem is in good hands and all our elected leaders are pulling together. My second idea is to restore county grants to nonprofits to focus on specific focused issues, not wide-ranging. And I'm going to focus today on homelessness and at-risk residents. Nonprofits are buckling under the demands of a burgeoning low-income population. While you all are doing a great job with affordable housing, the kind of housing I'm thinking about is having a place to sleep overnight, shelters. Nonprofits are capable of providing more services if they have more funding to do it. Temporary shelter, emergency help with utilities and food, mental health services, transportations to medical care, or to cold night shelters. These are fundamental needs. Unfortunately, nonprofits run out of money on a regular basis, and they have to deny services to applicants even though they would otherwise be capable of doing that. I would like to see the county provide grant funding specifically to nonprofits that serve unsheltered and inadequately sheltered residents. This, in effect, would be a restoration of grant funding with a more targeted focus that had been in place for decades and only really in the past 10 years has been changed to not being made available. In my more lengthy proposal, I point out that this program can be focused according to the Commission's priorities of limited time duration and structured according to specific needs the county identifies. For example, funding for more beds or more access points for people who need mental health counseling. My third idea is for the commission to acknowledge speaker contributions made at county commission meetings. Occasionally, I do rise to speak, and of course, many people do. Speakers sign up to speak at the commission meetings about issues they consider important, but the 3 minutes of speaking end, and we go back to our seats, not knowing if our words had any impact. I would like you to devise a way to give speakers some kind of feedback that shows you have heard them. Perhaps staff could send an acknowledgement following the meeting. The county will benefit in doing this by rewarding citizens for being engaged and brave enough to speak publicly. Furthermore, many have valuable expertise and ideas, and they should be encouraged to share them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Should we acknowledge that she spoke?
Yes.
We heard you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Terry Mott, followed by John Dacko.
Hello, my name is Terry Mott. I'm a resident of Viera East.
Ma'am, let me just say real quick, if they can't hear in the audience, they won't be able to hear you on the video, okay? And that's a reminder for everybody here tonight.
I'm sorry, I don't hear very well.
If they can't hear you in the audience, they won't hear you on the video, so just in the microphone.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, okay.
yes. Thank you.
My name is Terry Mott. I'm a resident of Viera East. My suggestion for the commission is to inspire the 5 entities that I'll list in just a minute to work together to create and execute a stormwater education program for the residents of the Viera East Community Development District. These entities are Brevard Natural Resources, St. John's River Water Management District, University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, Viera East Community Development District, and the Viera East Community Association. For background information, my husband and I built a home in Viera East in 2001. For several years, we built this home dam on a 4.5-acre detention pond. For several years, the VECDD maintained these properties, this particular pond, by letting natural vegetation along the littoral shelves of the pond. And they changed the policy at some point after about 15 years. And when that happened, we immediately had an algae bloom, and we have since had major erosion problems for the past 10 years. And so my property, backyard, the incline was this when it started, and now it's about like that. And it's so dangerous, we wouldn't even have a toddler in our backyard. And so I alerted the VECDD and asked them to address this issue. And we have been in the process of trying to get that resolved ever since. The main concern really is from the VECDD has said that the residents of VR East don't like vegetation in the backyards because they think it attracts snakes and alligators. And so we have 84 detention ponds, and none of them are maintained by the recommended standards of breast management practices of the Brevard County. So action taken. I've been working with each of these 5 entities for the last few years. Brevard Natural Resources decided they would try to get a Florida DEP grant for $50,000 to start an education program. And so that grant is still on hold right now. We've been waiting a couple of years for it to go through, but it's not a priority because Indian River Lagoon, of course, is the main priority, and most of the outflows in VR East flow into the St. Johns River. So my concern is that these buffer zones keep eroding around all the ponds. I've actually lost 2 feet of buffer zone property in my backyard. And our inclines continually increase. And actually there was a concern that when you have this incline, the ridge of the incline is unstable. And there has actually been, from what I understand, an accident in Brevard County where a toddler fell into a pond and drowned because it fell off. And also there is, in the state of Florida, there is an accident where a lawnmower service person was mowing over one of these unstable ridges and fell into the pond and drowned because the ridge collapsed. So we have those safety issues. So the action we've taken is to try to, we're still waiting for Brevard Natural Resources to do this grant. In the meantime, I'm a Florida Master Naturalist. I've taken all of the courses of Florida Master Naturalist program. And I've also been taking the professional courses for stormwater management of ponds. And I've talked to every one of these 5 entities, and they're all willing to address this issue and put together, if they could come together in a joint effort, I think we could set up a educational program, digital and also with Florida Master Naturalists, out in the communities teaching these residents that what's the right best management practices and how we can improve. So anyway, that's my recommendation. And I'm retired, and I'm a former military trainer. I'd be willing to help volunteer to do this project. And I thank you very much. We really appreciate this program.
If you'll see Carol Massolino in the back and give her your information, we'll contact you, and maybe we could have a meeting in my office.
Thank you very
Okay?
much.
I have a question.
Thank you.
I have a question, ma'am. I was just wondering, are you saying that we were doing mechanical harvesting there and now we're doing herbicides? Is that what's happening?
They do spraying, but they kill off everything.
Right.
Every
Okay.
month, so.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I add, the very last thing, to start the excitement, the recommendation was to start a Save the St. Johns River campaign, where we could have 3 Ws, water, wildlife, and waste, as part of the education program. And I have also St. John's Riverkeeper who are very excited about getting involved in that. So we have the program ready to go if you just launch it for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, we'll have John Dacko. We also have C4 on the agenda, Terry LaPlante. However, she reached out and is...
frequently asked questions, stuff. You guys want to have that.
Okay.
Look at it, look it around. Kind of supplement what I have here.
So after Terry LaPlante is going to be not interested in coming up, so next we'll have Jane Higgins after John Dacko.
Good evening, my name is John Dacko. Tonight I'd like to propose Brevard EMS 1. This would be unifying EMS for better emergency care, which is going to be a bold step for Brevard County. Imagine a system where every resident in Brevard County, no matter where they lived, received the fastest, highest quality emergency medical care possible. That's the vision behind Brevard EMS 1, a county-wide EMS system that unites Brevard County Fire Rescue and the city fire departments under one coordinated response model. Inspired by the nationally recognized King County Medic One program, this system would be funded by a 1-cent sales tax, ensuring that paramedic training, salaries, equipment, and operations are fully supported without burdening local budgets. By integrating resources across the county, we can reduce response times, improve patient outcomes, and guarantee advanced life support coverage for everyone. At the heart of this plan is collaboration. City fire departments will staff their own ALS ambulances, ensuring local control over hiring, training, and deployment. Brevard EMS 1 would operate these ambulances, providing standardized protocols, dispatch coordination, and countywide oversight to ensure efficiency. ALS fire engines would remain staffed by city firefighter paramedics, ensuring that rapid first response and seamless handoff to transport units. This model protects local autonomy, ensures compliance with employment laws and union agreements, and maintains unified countywide EMS response system without disrupting existing fire department structures. Public education and community engagement will play a vital role in securing this 1-cent sales tax referendum. The 1-cent sales tax shifts the financial burden from property owners and distributes across all individuals who contribute to the local economy, individual visitors, and tourists. This ensures everyone who benefits from Brevard County's emergency medical services shares in this funding, relieving residents of the disproportionate financial impact. This funding model is designed to be sustainable, efficient, and here's what it would cover. Salaries and benefits, ensuring paramedics are well-trained and well-compensated, advanced training. The idea would be a top-tier paramedic education program, preferably partnership with FIT's College of Medicine, modeled after King County's Medic One's program. Equipment and ambulances, we would provide modern vehicles and life-saving tools to meet growing demand, centralized dispatch and operations, a coordinated 911 system to ensure the closest, most appropriate EMS units respond quickly, and of course, centralized supply. Standardized equipment and supplies would improve efficiency and reduce costs. This approach allows cities to retain control over their fire department staffing while the county standardized medical protocols, transport services, and EMS training to ensure high-quality care across the region. A key part of this proposal is investing in the next generation of paramedics. Firefighters can promote into the EMS division, attending full-time paramedic training while receiving a salary. After training, they would serve as a predetermined number of years in the EMS side of their department before returning to the fire suppression duties. This creates a structured career pathway, ensuring a highly skilled EMS workforce while maintaining fire department staffing. This plan includes the development of state-of-the-art training, again, coordinated with Florida Institute of Technology, providing extensive clinical training in advanced airway, cardiac care, trauma response, hands-on field experience, and tuition funding. Public outreach will be critical in promoting EMS as a career, encouraging young people and experienced firefighters like to pursue paramedic training. We're not just improving response times, we're making them smarter with a centralized 911 system by providing strategically placed ALS system paramedics in city fire stations for faster response times, data-driven performance metrics, public education. By leveraging technology and coordination and training, Brevard EMS 1 will be a system that works smarter and faster for everyone. Though there's a particular roadmap that we could follow. Year 1, we would establish an EMS governing board, finalize agreements with city fire departments, educate the public about the sales tax referendum. Year 2, we could hire and train paramedics, integrate the ALS units into the fire stations. Year 3, we could fully activate this system, evaluate performance, and then expand on the public education side. Brevard EMS 1 is an investment in our community health and safety. It promises faster emergency response, better patient outcomes, smart, sustainable funding, transparency and accountability, and of course, community involvement. By coming together as a county, we can create a best-in-class EMS system that delivers world-class emergency care to every resident, regardless of where they live. Now is the time to act. I hope that the Board of County Commissioners would support this initiative and bring Brevard EMS 1 to life. Let's build an EMS system that saves more lives, works smarter, and serves our community better than it is now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You guys have any questions?
I heard Commissioner Altman first. Hold on, that's okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Goodson.
Okay. If this was all to come to question in the past, who controls the money?
So there would be a governing board, right? Brevard County would have that governing board, and they would oversee the fundings that come in, and then that funding source then would be directed out to each stakeholder, right? So every stakeholder, be it a city, be it Palm Shores, be it Grant Valcaria, they will have a stakeholder on this governing board, and then those monies will be divvied up accordingly.
Accordingly, where does the union fit in?
Well, the union would fit in on the personnel side. So the union is going to make work-life balance much, much better and allow things to work seamlessly between the county, of one, and then, of course, the cities.
So you're saying that the funding would help feed the bottom rung of the firefighters as opposed to the higher-ups? Is that what you're saying?
So this funding, if managed correctly by the gatekeeper, which would be you, would be able to provide funding from the bottom all the way up. And if it's done correctly, ALS transports should be free.
Now,
BLS transports, on the other hand, would have to be farmed out to a private company because BLS transports generally shouldn't be going to the emergency rooms and they should be taken care of elsewhere. So BLS transports put a greater burden on the system.
okay. So if that all be said to be true, which I'm sure it would be, us being the board or the county being the gatekeepers, then they could regulate the money from bottom up.
That would
correct?
be the hope.
Okay. Well, it hasn't, okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Altman.
Yeah, I appreciate the proposal. It's got a solution to a problem, and it's very thought out. All the proposals so far. The question I have, and I should know the answers, but I'm not sure. Are we allowed to use sales tax for fire EMS? Does Florida law allow us to do that? I know there's a lot of restrictions in what we can use
There's
them
one,
for.
and it has to be substituted, but I'll let Morris handle it.
There is a provision where a sales tax could be adopted if approved by the voters to fund fire and emergency medical services. However, if you enact the sales tax, you have to also adopt a corresponding decrease in other funding sources such as the assessment, general fund, et cetera. So it's a replacement, but not necessarily an enhancement.
So if I could expand on that, and that would be the idea, the sales tax would take over the EMS, MSTUs, and then the other property taxes that is the financial burden that I spoke about. Seminole County does this right now. They offer a sales tax and it fully funds their fire department and their EMS.
Could I, go ahead, sir. I had a follow-up too, but you go ahead.
Have we ran the number? Would there be any increased revenue, or would it only be allowed to be a replacement?
The language of the statute is that you have to reduce the other funding sources by the amount that the sales tax generates.
Any follow-up?
Sir?
I guess, though, you could benefit as the economy grew and sales tax revenue grew, you know, like with the property tax, you got the rollback issue and the cap and all that, but that wouldn't apply to a sales tax, would it?
Correct.
Put it on the ballot this November.
I would love it. I would love it.
I'd second that.
Yeah.
It's,
I think you can only, I'll have to verify to be sure, but my recollection is that you can only put a sales tax like that on the ballot in a general election year.
Right, that's why I said November.
And I believe
Commissioner Altman?
General?
you also have the agreements with the cities, right?
In an even year.
That was my,
And we would have to, there would be agreements with the cities, or else there's
Absolutely.
a formula in the statute that
Right.
takes place. But ideally, you'd have a agreement with the city, sort of
You
like we
only
do
have
with
it
the
over
Save
there
Our Indian River
unincorporated
Lagoon
if the
tax.
cities are
and just to
providing.
clarify that, right, because you collect sales tax countywide and you collect it in the cities, they have to get sort of their proportional share of that. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Commissioner Altman, if I could, this system has been going on since 1970 in the city of, in the King County region, and it is implemented amongst the county and the cities. They're all coordinated under one umbrella. It is overwhelmingly voted in every 5 to 10 years by its citizens because of how efficient and how successful this program is. Like I said, so it's been running for 55 years. This isn't, I'm not creating a new wheel. This isn't something that I just popped off on the top of my head. This is a well-oiled machine. It's well-funded. It just needs to be implemented, and it now is the right time to implement it in Brevard County, because we're in a climate now where something needs to be changed, and this potentially might be the time to get this done. Either a sales tax, or in King County, they do it with a levy. So obviously, it's a little bit different. It's similar probably to our EMS, MSTUs and our property taxes. But a sales tax may be something that the community would bite off on a little easier than raising property taxes.
At least the tourists would pay it, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
right now, the tourists don't pay property taxes. Only
Correct.
Brevard's property owners pay property taxes, so.
And again, that would be the idea, is shift the burden off of the property owners and those folks, so.
Thank you, sir, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Jane Higgins, followed by Sarah Hodge.
Hello. Good evening, Brevard County Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. My name's Jane Higgins. I've been a resident of Palm Bay for about 45 years now, and I'm on the board of the Conradina chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. I'm here with other Conradina members and concerned Brevard County citizens to talk about low-impact development. And I wanted to ask everyone in the audience that cares about this topic just to stand real quick to show their support, because we have a lot of support amongst the citizens of Brevard County. Hopefully you received the presentation I accidentally sent in twice, so you've got two versions of it. So I won't really read it to you, but I just in summary wanted to talk about what is low-impact development. It's basically an approach to land development that uses various land planning, design practices, and technologies to preserve and protect essential aquifers and waterways, such as the Indian River Lagoon. LID, as the acronym, offers many environmental benefits. That's in the package that you have. Who benefits from LID? Everyone. So developers, municipalities, residents, and the environment. It's not an us versus developers, it's all of us. It's a big we, everyone can benefit. And the thing I wanted to take away the most is on the last page, the state of Florida has been a little slow to adopt a LID permitting criteria, so local governments are basically taking the lead. And on that last page are the pictures of some of the other government emblems that we could certainly learn from, such as the city of Clearwater, Sarasota County, Pinellas County, Manatee County, et cetera. So there's lots of opportunities there. So our request is that we promote and support legislation and projects that use low-impact development and design throughout Brevard County to protect our precious wildlife, water, and habitat. My suggested recommendation is to incorporate that legislation and perhaps create a board to investigate those other counties and what they're doing and how we could easily adopt that here. I would personally be willing to serve on that type of a committee, and I'm sure we could have other concerned citizens as well as some of y'all that might be interested in that as well. Did everyone get a chance to look at this presentation? So I don't need to read it to you. I think that would be beyond needed. So any questions that I could answer?
Thank you, ma'am, very much.
I have one, I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Commissioner Delaney.
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing with us and whoever's listening, are there some examples that you're particularly interested in?
Right, so low impact development is basically trying to keep the water captured on the land instead of letting it flow through concrete down to the river. Since grass only absorbs half an inch of rainwater, grass loses a lot of water. So anything we can do to stop it, that includes rain gardens, native plantings, permeable pavers. You see a lot of those in parking lots. Anything like that to try to keep the water on the land so that it soaks down to our aquifer, which is where we need it to be for future usage. We're just trying to avoid having it run into that concrete or down those big drainage tubes into the river, because then it carries a lot of pollutants with it as it goes to the Indian River. So that's pretty much the concept in a nutshell. There is a statewide implementation website as well through the Department of Environmental Protection, and they show a lot of examples, like in Cocoa Beach. They've diverted a lot of rainwater from the major roads. Cape Canaveral has done a lot of that work. Most of the municipalities have a low-impact development plan in place. What's lacking is legislation to mandate that. It's kind of a voluntary thing at this point. And where it's most effective is when there's some teeth to it, as you can imagine. So thank you for that question. Anything else?
Commissioner Goodson.
Question. I think, Tad, you can maybe jump in on this, but in the mid-'70s is when retention ponds were put on plans to hold water for 24 hours. Before, is it 24 hours?
Yeah, I believe that's our requirements, 24.
Yes. Okay. That being said, what would you do with the total number of subdivisions in Brevard County that don't have a retention pond, that had straight outflow? What would you do with those?
Well, if there's not a retention pond, and as we heard from Terry Mott, retention ponds aren't necessarily the best answer. But keeping the rain on the site can be done by using more native plantings and less grass, because any other plant you put in a landscape besides grass is going to retain water. Oak trees are the best, of course, but they're the biggest, right? So that's not always a great solution. But any native landscaping will cause that water to be percolated down versus running to the river. So that's really one of the major goals of capturing that rainwater.
So you'd propose that an older subdivision with no retention pond go through and do all total new landscaping, correct?
Just some native plants, doesn't have to be 100%, but any amount helps.
Yeah,
We're
sure,
doing
sure.
actually a project this Thursday. It's kind of top secret, so don't, I know we're broadcasting and everything. But it's a Flip My Florida Yard, which will be at the entrance of an HOA in the Melbourne area. And that's a great example of, here's a space where nothing's going on, really, that you could put some native plants and capture water versus having it run off with mulch. So just any little space helps. You know, it doesn't have to be 100% no grass, but any space helps.
I would imagine developers would love this idea, because that would give them their 20-acre pond for more houses.
There are some definite benefits for developers using low-impact development.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little bit of a mind shift versus cutting all the trees down from the very beginning. But it does reduce the land clearing and grading costs, reduces their infrastructure costs, reduces rainwater management costs, increases their lot yield, as you pointed out, and may reduce impact fees and increases lot and community marketability, because a lot of people want to see some trees. Yep.
Commissioner Atkinson?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask staff, do we incorporate any lid at the moment in what we do?
So with our last CEER amendment, the county adopted the peril of flood, and in the peril of flood, we talk about the low-impact development aspect, but, and that would be something we would be moving forward with, along with the creation of the barrier island critical area of critical concern. So those are all things that are in the works at the moment.
Lots of opportunity.
Ma'am, I would just say one comment to you. Coming into this office, one of the things I've come to appreciate is how expensive it is to move water, right? It's an incredible amount of infrastructure just to move temporary water, which is storm water. It's not there every day. It's just when it happens, and trying to move that. And so I see it more your way, which is it's a lot easier to deal with it on site in my mind, than it is to try to transport it down the road. So I do think that governments will adopt it for a whole host of reasons, one of them being that eventually it will be cheaper and easier in infrastructure terms.
Right,
So-
and what's happening in the city of Palm Bay, I know, is a lot of that concrete drainage that was built 40 to 50 years ago now is breaking down. And replacing that is astronomical cost. So it's a good time for us collectively to look at some alternative solutions to concrete. So,
Thank you very much.
okay,
Thank
thank you.
Next, we have Sarah Hodge, followed by Lori Alvord.
You know, I'm a bad speaker, so I made a copy for everybody because I'll probably forget half this. I'm Sarah Hodge, and I live in Merritt Island. And good evening, Commissioners. I would like to see the public records put on the internet for all to see without the cost and delays when trying to get them from the county. By doing so, it would free up county employees' time from doing so many record requests. The more records available online, the fewer requests are needed and costs to the public. This adds to the efficiency and effectiveness of the county, as well as the public perception and transparency and open government. The clerk of court has their records available on the internet. Why can Brevard County not do the same for the public? It would save staff time and the huge costs people have to pay to get their records. Some requesters have problems and delays getting records in advance of meetings, and sometimes items are voted on before the records are obtained by the public. Last year at this time, the county charged 2 residents $35 per hour just to review the Speak Up Brevard binders in the county attorney's office. I recommend that the county post more records online. I'm sorry, I'm getting through. Add hyperlinks to any department records and that are already online, and track the number, percent, and type of records that are added online each year, which could be included in the county's annual budget update. I would also like to see the records policy revised to increase the amount of minutes that the staff provides to the public before records are charged for. Currently, the public is charged for anything over 15 minutes as excessive time. I would like to see the county post online the amount of money that is charged to the public, plus the amount of dollars collected by the county each year for fulfilling records requests. This information could be posted on a monthly and annual basis so the public can monitor how much we are being charged for the public access to our public records. I think saving money by having fewer records requests would be a huge benefit to the county in a time when you are trying to find budget money. This would be a benefit for everyone. Residents deserve easy, convenient, and no-cost access to our public records. Please put all the county records online and make them easy to locate for residents. I would like to, Dade Miami has an internet site for all their public records. It's awesome. I would love you to look at it, and maybe we can do the same thing. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Lori Alvord, followed by James Erdman.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Lori Alvord of Satellite Beach, and my citizen recommendation asks to repeal the injunction against county staff participating in non-mandatory municipal board meetings. I'd like to request this in order to restore the ability of citizen volunteers to interact with county staff at these meetings in order to propose new ideas, potential new programming, for the different county departments that are represented by our boards to help bring the views of other citizens to the attention of county staff, and also to disseminate information from county staff back to our fellow citizens. This injunction was put in place at the suggestion of former Commissioner John Tobias in May of 2022, following the pandemic shutdown as a cost-saving measure. I question what costs have been saved, at least in the examples I know of. I serve on the Satellite Beach City Library Advisory Board, as well as the South Central County Library Advisory Board. The meetings are held during library staff time. They're in library or county places, so there's no time for commuting, there's no overtime. This seems to be part of the duties of staff of outreach and communication. So the only costs I'm seeing is a negative cost. It's an opportunity cost of losing citizen participation in municipal boards, working with county staff, trying to improve. We sent, as the secretary of the Satellite Beach Library Board, we sent a letter to the county commission following this injunction. We did not get a resolution. We only received acknowledgement of our letter. So I respectfully request that this injunction be ended to end our disenfranchisement and restore our ability for citizen participation and interaction with county staff as part of municipal boards and county boards. As member of the county South Central Board, I take my time to go to Melbourne Beach and look at what they're doing, but I can't talk to the librarians there. I can't take those ideas back to Satellite Beach. It just doesn't seem quite right. So thank you very much for your consideration, and obviously happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Delaney.
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to let you know that the advisory board policy is one of the things that I'd like to bring before the board sometime soon. I was going to let us get through the budget process, but then I was going to start going through some of these policies that are near and dear to my heart, and one of them is the advisory board. So I really appreciate this request.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll have James Erdman, followed by William Hodge.
Yes, my name's James Erdman. I'm from Mims, Florida. I'd like to start out by thanking all of you guys for giving us the time of day to be here and hear us. As one of the few locals left that are born and raised in North Brevard, I've slowly watched the out-of-control growth, pollution in the river, all destroying our way of life as North Brevard residents. Like the MIMS comprehensive plan states, above all, MIMS should remain MIMS, a special place, royal and small town in nature with history and future all its own. This includes people hunting, fishing, riding horses, side-by-sides. And that is why I'm here today to propose to allow side-by-sides, ATVs, and golf carts on county-maintained roads in North Brevard with speed limits less than 45 miles an hour. A family should be able to ride around on a nice afternoon and enjoy nature and wildlife once seen while driving the back roads without any worry of getting tickets or stopped. Just the other week, I was down in Canaveral Groves and I saw 3 sheriff officers having someone pulled over for riding an ATV down a county road. With all the crime in Brevard County and only getting worse as people keep moving, wouldn't it be better if our sheriff's officer could focus more on the crime instead of someone riding down the road on an ATV? Florida statute 316.2123 states that a county is exempt from the section if the governing body votes on it. It could either be as an entire county or where the county can dictate roads, or just by district. It doesn't have to be the entire county. Let's take CEER, for instance. They use Ordinance 106-73 as a prime example. They voted to allow golf carts to ride down their roads. They can ride through the city on golf carts, but in the county, if we do it, we get pulled over and they write us tickets. As long as the laws are being followed, there's no reason why North Brevard cannot have their way of life protected before it's all gone. In closing, let's work together and come up with an ordinance that allows people to ride side-by-sides on county roads in a safe and reasonable manner. Thank you.
So, Commissioner Goodson.
Thank you. Is there any truth to the fact that you can put a farm emblem on the back of your four-wheel and ride it?
Used to be, but they still pull you over.
They still pull you over.
Yes. We were told that they do not recognize that on side-by-sides and ATVs,
Unless you have a cow in the front seat with you, right?
basically.
Okay. So you would like to see an ordinance that would take you from 46 north, is that about the line?
Just north of Brevard, like Canaveral Groves, Mims, Scottsmore, just the rural areas of Brevard County where keeping Brevard royal.
Port St. John.
Port St. John, parts of it, but it's not developed, overdeveloped, and
Now, can I, just for my own education here, are these vehicles that are titled in the state of Florida, but they don't have tags on them, so they're not registered as, say, low-speed vehicles or what have you? They don't have a license plate on the back, but they are titled. Is that right?
that is correct. The low-speed vehicle is defined as a vehicle that can do at least 20 miles an hour, but less than 25. So it really limits you to basically just golf carts.
But I think side-by-sides, if you're going to take them in a state park, it does have to be titled in the state. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
You get an off-road registration for them, too.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Delaney, I think is next.
I'm so glad that you brought this forward. Spoiler alert, I've been talking with Sheriff Ivey about this, and I think he'd be okay with me sharing this, but I think that I have his support to look into, what we can do as a county, of course, with board support, we have to stay within the statute so that it has to be registered. Like the bigger vehicles have to be registered. They have to have insurance. The smaller vehicles, Morris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they just need insurance? Or do they need both?
It's, unfortunately, it's a lot more complicated than
Right.
that. It's not classes or sizes of vehicles, but it's classes, and they're very limited things that we are authorized to do under state law. Most of what the gentleman's addressing actually, in fact, there's actually a bill pending right now, both in the Senate and the House for the legislature that would allow side-by-sides and similar vehicles. They're introducing a new definition called utility terrain vehicles, UTVs, that if passed, it would allow those. But right now, not only are they not allowed on any public roads, we don't have any authorization to allow them either. We do have some limited ability with golf carts if we jump through certain hoops, but then the ATVs, the statute you read, I understand why you would read it that way. It's confusing, though, because it's actually reverse of that. It's not that we can exempt ourselves from the prohibition on ATVs. We can exempt ourselves from the state provision that allows ATVs on certain unpaved roads with speed limits of 25 miles per hour or less, and actually the Board of County Commissioners did that in 2006, adopted an ordinance opting out of that. So in Brevard County, you can't even ride them on the unpaved roads. But even if the county took that on, all we could do would be to repeal that ordinance, which would only allow them on unpaved roads with speed limits of up to 25 miles per hour. So our hands are largely tied with ATVs and side-by-sides. There are some things we could do with golf carts, although I've never seen it done on that kind of scale of a entire portion of the county as opposed to more specific areas. But that's something that can be looked at.
Yeah.
So hopefully this new bill passes the state and the House, or the Senate and the House, and we can get moving on something.
If the UTV passes, they would be allowed at a lot of places. I think it's up to 50 mile per hour speed limit roads they'd be allowed to go on.
Commissioner Goodson.
Thank you. Morris, so then you'd say everyone in Vera is 20 or 25 under, and they're not side-by-sides? Is that what you're going to tell me?
I don't know how, what, I
understand,
haven't
'cause I
weighed
don't know
those
how they-
vehicles but supposedly they're golf carts.
Of course, if you know anything about anybody that's got an ATV or a golf cart, you don't want one that does 20 or 25 miles an hour. You want one that does 85 or 90 miles an hour. But it amazes me, Viera got theirs, but of course Viera's got much more clout than MIMS. No offense to MIMS.
Yeah.
I like MIMS.
Just for a point.
I
of-
would start toting a cow around with you.
Just for a point of clarity, you're talking on a multi-use trail versus in the street. So, I mean, a golf cart, for it to be in the street, it's got, it's supposed to have a tag, I think. And then they've got, off to the side of the road, they have some trails, so up
But
in
wouldn't you say if you went down
Mims.
to Viera High, there's 300 of them, and you're telling me every one of them's got a tag?
No.
I don't believe that.
They have, the high school they tell me that they do put a sticker on there to make sure that those students driving them have at least a learner's permit. So that's the part of the law that the
In
legislature.
Viera, they can only go on the multi-purpose pathways, like you mentioned, Mr. Chair, and then on roads with speed limits of less than 30 miles per hour. You're looking at a sun tree ordinance potentially that would allow them on certain designated streets with lower speed limits, so.
Well, undoubtedly, Stadium Drive is a back by, maybe a not so well traveled, because you see them all the time crossing the intersections up there.
Yeah, which they
Stadium?
can, that's the Viera DRI.
Well, yeah.
They can
Well, if
cross,
you
they
can do
can't
that
actually
there,
drive
you
on it.
surely should be able to help MIMS. So,
I'm not against you, sir, on
Right.
ATV in the north end of the county. There's a lot to like about MIMS. I like it too. Any other questions for the gentleman? All right, sir, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Now we have William Hodge, followed by Susan Connolly.
I have an easy suggestion, doesn't cost a lot of money, so that should be easy. Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Hodge, 390 Sanders Lane, Merritt Island. I have submitted a recommendation that I think the county can improve on the visibility and function of the consent agenda. Currently, the numerous items listed on the consent agenda are voted on as one block, with commissioners occasionally stating that they are voting no on a certain item. The current process does not provide a chance for meaningful discussion by commissioners or the public and raises concern about transparency and visibility of the county business. There are sometimes more than 24 items of county business that are voted on in a single meeting under the consent agenda. These consent agenda items are not read out loud, and the public has no idea what is being voted on by listening to the meeting or when viewing it on the streaming platforms. I propose the following changes to the consent agenda. The county manager or the county attorney should read each consent agenda item out loud and into the record as is done in other local meetings, including Titusville and Cocoa Beach. The dollar amount of each action voting item should be clearly stated during the consent agenda reading and on the written agenda, as well as the total dollar amount of the items being approved under the consent agenda. Fewer items should be placed on the consent agenda, as consent agenda items are defined as being routine and non-controversial in nature. Commissioners that are voting no on a consent agenda item should pull the agenda item and state why they are voting no on the item, as is done in Cape Canaveral, and discuss the reasons. Commissioners should more frequently pull items to add visibility and publicly raise the concern that many items do not belong on the consent agenda and should be placed on the regular business agenda before the meeting. A brief statement could be read out loud at each meeting and placed on the projector that informs the public that background information for every agenda item is available online on the county website. With a new commission, there is opportunity to improve the handling of the consent agenda to make it more transparent to the public. Commissioner Feltner, I request that you spearhead these visibility and transparency changes in your new role as the current board chairman. Those proposed revisions would make a difference to residents and can be implemented immediately. I request that my statement be added to the record of this workshop meeting and be included in my CEER recommendation. I'm also giving you copies of the statements. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions?
I would just like to say that if there's board support for this, I would be, I would definitely be in support.
Sir, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Next, we have Susan Connolly, followed by Lisa Cullen.
Good evening, Commissioners. First, thank you for your time.
Thank you for each and every one of you to be here. I value this opportunity to have a focused conversation with the entire County Commission to develop solutions to community issues. We have all seen the ads, come to Florida. Come spend time on Florida's pristine beaches and waterways. The truth is, however, the longest water system within our Brevard County, the Indian River Lagoon, is polluted. For years, we have had a large number of citizens, organizations, scientists, even governmental bodies like this county commission focus on the problems of the Indian River Lagoon. The majority of these efforts use words like restore, remediate, to describe their collective and continuous efforts. It's now time for a new word, prevention. It is also time to resolve all the problems by prevention using the root causes of the problem. One cause is from my beloved city of Palm Bay. In 2024 alone, there were 52 wastewater spills directly into the Central Florida Indian River Lagoon. Spill volumes range from 50 gallons to 1.33 million gallons of untreated and partially processed wastewater. The insufficient and overcapacity infrastructure of Palm Bay resulted in us being a contributor. My recommendation to the County Commission: bring together from throughout all of Brevard County anyone who is already engaged. Start here tonight. Many of us are already engaged, trying to attempt resolution. Bring us into an organized effort that includes root cause solutions that are quick, comprehensive, with permanent results. We also need oversight, and something all our community efforts lack: accountability. A strong system of financial consequences for violators, as well as a strong system of incentives for creative, innovative, and how about just common sense solutions. County Commissioners, there is something you can do right here tonight. You can encourage the development of eco-businesses to address our eco needs. These will promote and assure the success of ecotourism, which is the life force of Brevard County. Thank you for listening. I noticed I went over my time. I have a second recommendation, and that's on Brevard County Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE. DOGE is coming to Brevard County, in case you haven't heard. The federal government has DOGE, and now Governor DeSantis in Florida has DOGE. Let's not wait for the trickle down. Let's start our own. Let's personalize and prioritize what we want in Brevard County. And let's add a twist. In our DOGE, let's also identify and acknowledge what we are doing right. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
And now for Brevard County Tax Collector Lisa Cullen.
Good evening. In 2009, when I took office, I inherited a situation that needed some various items addressed, and one of those things was the budget process that we used. My predecessor just added 10% every year and moved forward. In 2023, this board, not this board, but the board, took an interest in several constitutional officer budgets. And I wanted to share why I thought the questionnaire was good and encourage you to do that with each of your departments. The tax collector's budget, as well as the property appraiser's budget, is submitted to the Department of Revenue. And as I look at the questionnaire, many of those questions that we were asked to answer, we actually fill out an appendix or a budget section that answers each one of those questions. And I don't know if you have that or not. I've not gone through your budget process, but I can appreciate the massive budget that you do have control over. It's probably, what, about $1 billion that you have discretionary discretion over. So I thought I would suggest you use the questionnaire like you used for us in your departments. I think it would be a good faith effort, and the questions aren't out of line. Some of them didn't apply to us, like I have no grant funding, for example, but I do think it would give more clarity to the budget and help, wrap your mind around it, because I had to do that in my own office. So I use those schedules that we fill out for Department of Revenue and work through it that way. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions for Commissioner
And I
Delaney?
live in wild, wild West Canaveral Groves.
Maybe UTVs are coming your way.
Oh, they're there. They're there.
I know they are. Commissioner Delaney, you had a question?
I was just wondering if you could give, I don't know if you have it in front of you, if you could give, just for the people listening, some examples of some of the things that are on the questionnaire?
For example, let's see. It asks if we're a membership, we have membership fees in any organizations. Of course, I belong to, for example, the Tax Collectors Association. We're a joint lobbying group and share information. Travel, I can tell you with Department of Revenue, I have to tell them where I'm going, what city I'm going in, how much I'm going to spend, if it's airfare, food, lodging, if there's any associated costs with attending that conference, such as a registration fee, mailings. Of course, do a lot of mailings. We have a whole postage worksheet that we do for Department of Revenue. Vehicles, it asks various questions about vehicles. We have a vehicle portion of our budget. Capital expenditures and contracts, we send them a list of every contract with each of our vendors that we use. Wage increases, how those are determined, employee benefits, and I believe all constitutionals participate with you now in your benefits, as well as some of the FRS and state benefits. But those are some of the things that it addressed, and we do an appendix for each one of those in our budget.
Thank you. I know that, speaking as a new commissioner, that all of that sounds really great, and it seems like it would be a really helpful tool, especially when, we're trying to figure out how to prioritize our money that we're spending and whatnot, so.
And if you want to look at what the Department of Revenue uses, it's right on their websites for both tax collectors and appraisers. You can look at the different things that we have to fill out and submit as part of our budget submission. And they go back and they look years in the past. Did I budget for that 3 years in a row and not spend that money? They'll call and ask those questions, so.
And for transparency too, I think that would be really great. It would give the public like a cheat sheet of the budget and how departments are spending money and whatnot. I really like this idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes,
sir.
Commissioner Goodson.
How many expenditures do you have in your budget? Just ballpark, I mean, a year, do you have 500, 5,000? I don't know. Tell me.
What do you mean by expenditure?
Well, how many checks do you write out to vendors in a year's time? Your
Well,
expenses?
A lot of my checks, I try not to write checks, sir. But a lot of those expenditures that you're talking about are actually ACH, would be a refund to a customer. I would hazard to guess my vendor list is much smaller than yours.
I would too.
But I do have several contracts. It's quite a few.
Your contracts usually are buildings, maybe improvements on buildings? What would your contracts be?
My contracts are for, I lease a building in Merritt Island, so I have a lease there.
Right.
I have contracts with a queuing company that monitors our appointments as well as how you're called through the office. It gives me a lot of statistics. And then there's our overall comprehensive tax collection software where we use all of our, it's used for everything within our office, and it interfaces with our finance software. A lot of online presence and payment processing there. So those are some of the types of companies that I would have contracts with.
Okay. Just thought I'd try to catch you.
Good luck.
I
And
wouldn't
she-
say that.
She does put multiple tax bills in one envelope.
Yes, sir.
So
As
that-
well as
so that-
registrations.
So is the trim notices. Just, we
Okay.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the tax collector? Thank you, ma'am. very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, Commissioners, we're going to go into public comment. Thank you. Yes. Casey Beckett? Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Do I come up there? Or?
Yes, ma'am?
Okay. I just kind of wanted to see what was happening today. This is one of the first meetings I've
We
been
met in
to.
the
I
elevator earlier
apologize.
today, right?
But I just had some comments on some of the people, the Heather Elko with the homeless. I do agree there's a real problem there. We, as a small farm, donate a lot of eggs. We also are talking to other small farms that can donate potatoes or other things. Be nice if there was a place that people could find that they could donate excess food instead of just throwing it out to the pigs or to other things. Also, I think both Terry and Jane Higgins hit on retention ponds, and they're a pet peeve of mine. Basically, the developer can come in, build a retention pond, and hand over the maintenance of it to the HOA and be gone. And there needs to be a maintenance plan for those retention ponds. A lot of them need mucked out at some point. They need to have plantings around them. It'd be nice if we could educate the HOAs to be able to help that out. Now to James Erdman, Grant Park area does have, we could have golf carts all over our roads. We just can't go out to US 1 or to Babcock, but we have golf carts all over the place. We still have our horses. We still have occasional cow in the road. It's a little different place, but yes, we can have the golf carts. And I think, and then stormwater runoff is another thing I have seen on US 1, them pouring, and I don't know who to talk to about this, herbicides that are going along US 1 on the east side with waterways that go right out to the lagoon, right beside us, that destroys the seagrass that was paying a lot of money to try to bring back in. You're not going to with herbicides being allowed to be poured down in there. There's got to be a different way to handle these stormwater runoffs, plantings, working with Conradina, places like that, that they've got greenways to do it. There's a lot of different little cities, I've been going to a lot of different meetings, that, I know I have 3-minute warning, that are providing these rain gardens, and people are loving it. They're seeing flooding disappear in their neighborhoods and having beautiful little grass and pollinator areas that people could go visit. So there's just, I just had a lot of things to kind of spell out. So that was about it. So did any questions?
I just wanted to mention, one of the, our Natural Resources Department has really tried hard to limit the herbicides. And a lot of the roads that we're seeing excessive usage of herbicides are FDOT. So if you are inclined, reaching out to FDOT, the Florida Department of Transportation, about this.
Yeah, I think that's who does US 1.
Correct.
Because we're trying to get rid of it in the other grant areas because we have charge of that. but you call, oh, no, you have to.
I know.
Now,
But
how-
if you
what-
email, and
Okay.
if you can like rally anybody you know that cares about this,
Okay.
and if they get multiple emails, like all at the same time, they'll take a little bit more attention to it. And then we could go to them as, you know, your commissioners, and we could say, hey, we're getting a lot of citizen input that, you know, you guys are contributing to what's going on in our river, and how can we come up with a solution and partner?
Okay, but first start with FDOT.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Carl Weinberger. Did I say that right?
I'm Carl Weinberger, 926 Peach Avenue, Palm Bay. I'm also a member of the Contadina Native Plant Society, along with Jane and several other members here. Again, I'm advocating for low-impact development. As you have seen, this county is growing at a pretty fast pace, and we are removing a lot of native trees and native shrubbery when they're building these new HOAs. So the idea of low-impact development is to try to keep the, like it's been said before, keep the water on the property, you know, mitigating the use of retention ponds, swales, you know, and going to the main canals, which eventually either go to the St. John's or go into the lagoon. And as we know, the lagoon's in bad shape. It's gotten a little better, but not great. As a member of Contadina, we support the use of native plants to remove, lawns traditionally, you know, the use of fertilizer and pesticides have contributed to a lot of the problems in the river over the years. And like she was saying, you know, the use of herbicides, and where there's seagrass, it goes in and it kills it. So you spend all this time, money, and effort, and then you wind up shooting yourself in the foot by doing something like that. Basically, you know, as Contadina, we, you know, promote the use of native plants. We hold a yard tour every year, highlighting a different area of the county or the city and showing what average people can do with their lawns to make them more environmentally friendly, reduce the amount of pesticides or eliminate pesticides, you know, limit the use of fertilizer. So that's my basic pitch. And I hope that the county commissioners would consider trying to put together the beginning of some sort of an IDL legislation to get the developers on board early, because if you get them on late, forget it. It needs to be baked into part of the equation. You know, when you start developing, you need to get these things done first. And I think in the long term, it's better for the developers because they have a given, you know, better looking neighborhoods, less problems with flooding, less pollution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Elizabeth Blackford?
Before I begin, I need a little clarification because I submitted 2 CERs, and I also had a card for a general topic. So how long do I get here?
Ma'am, was your submission for the CEER, you didn't RSVP, if you will, to speak on your CEER
I've
items?
already discussed it with staff. I did
Oh, okay.
RSVP, and I
Okay.
just wasn't put on the list. So
okay.
I have 2 CERs.
Okay.
Are you going to let me talk for 6 minutes?
What's that? Ma'am, I would be happy to yield you more time, considering we're all here tonight. Could you do both of them in 5 minutes? Would that be fair?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think I can probably curtail it.
Okay.
And forgive me, I'm going to use my cell phone
Okay.
with notes. Okay. I submitted 2 CEERs. One was about dangerous traffic congestion, and I won't reiterate that. It was number 71. The last 2 digits were 71. And with the increase in building here, the traffic has increased dramatically, and I see an easy solution for cutting down on people doing drive-throughs. The residential neighborhoods close to our major highways are being used by commuters to cut the corners. Is there any problem with simply reducing the residential speed limit to 25 miles an hour, flat out? Right now, there's a variety running from 35, 30, 25, and as far as I can see, the conditions vary all over the place. I have given you a good deal of rationale in my CEER. It's a revenue opportunity, but I don't think it hurts anybody by dropping the speed limit to 25, and there's no confusion involved. So I'd appreciate your consideration on that. The second thing I wanted to bring to your attention is how many people have submitted suggestions along the lines of low-impact development principles. And basically, we've been paying this additional sales tax for several years now, and yet people flick their cigarette butts out the windows and fertilize their lawns with high phosphorus and high nitrogen fertilizers, and there's no signage at big box or even ma and pa stores to show generally that there is a limitation on that. What I'm asking for is more enforcement and more coordination. I recognize that a lot of these are city issues, but just like our fertilizer ban, it took all of us within the county coordinating to make that happen. And it's only marginally successful so far. So I wanted to bring to your attention, again, I don't know if there's anybody here. I did not submit CEER number 68, but I think it's a very good suggestion, recommending a certification program for landscapers. These people would be taught the principles, receive a certification, and there would be renewal required. You get to give your contracts to them. They bid, but they get preferential treatment because they follow LID principles. They recognize native plants and how to properly prune trees for maximum effect. I think it's a very good creative suggestion, and whoever submitted it gets a gold star from me. Let's see. I'd also like to make some suggestions about the Speak Up Brevard workshop. Thank you all for spending your time here this evening with us. This is an important opportunity for those of us who do our part as citizens. And so thank you, Commissioner Delaney, for sponsoring this. I see from the database in the past there have been recommendations that the period for submitting suggestions be expanded. 1 month really isn't enough. There was nowhere near enough publicity for this event. May I suggest that you open it for 2 months, starting December 1st, running to the end of January. That gives people time when they're together, partying, spending time at home and with their families, to look around them and look for ways that they might improve our communities. I would also suggest that you use a drop-down menu to coordinate topics into specific subject areas that can be dealt with all at once. We have everybody talking about one thing during this part of the agenda, and then we move on to the next topic instead of using an RSVP system for speakers. As you know, we've been all over the map this evening. Let's try to keep it a little more coordinated. And I think that pretty much does it. Again, I appreciate your time, and I hope you'll get some good information out of what we gave you.
Thank you, ma'am. Judy Trandell? Say that right?
Yep. Good evening, and thank you for having this. This reminds me of the legislative delegation meeting, and that's so important. Well, I've sat here and I've listened to many of the citizens, and my subject just goes right along with it. So I'd like to talk about wetlands. The importance of wetlands and everyone's concern about retention ponds, about stormwater runoff, about flooding, nature, pure water, the Indian River Lagoon. This is something that can be attended to by your input on development. When developers come in, they like to mitigate wetlands. Do away with the wetlands and put in a retention pond. But what that does, it takes away all of the clear water filtration. It takes away the wildlife. It takes away the hatcheries. It takes away all of the things that Florida is so famous for. I just read just this week that the Everglades restoration, remember way back when they decided to develop the Everglades, make canals, dry up the marshes? Well, I think I just read that Governor DeSantis was going to allot $800 million this year and next year for partial restoration. They have to go back in and try to fix all of the damage that was done before. And that refers right back to us. What we're doing by allowing the wetlands to be transformed into a lake or just dry land and say we put a retention pond somewhere else, you're not doing Florida a favor. They don't last. Retention ponds deteriorate within 5 years, is what I read. It takes away all of the natural defense from the stormwater and things like that. And really, we Floridians like to have a kind of a low life, slow pace, natural beauty. Let's not build it up with all the development. I saw somewhere that I live down in Palm Bay. Sunterra is going to destroy 101 acres of wetlands in our South Brevard area. That's a shame. That's a shame. So anyway, I know my time is up, but please, when you look at a development plan coming in, I know the damage is already done from behind us, but from forward, when you have a development coming before you, start with your staff, make sure there's no wetlands on the property. Your planning and zoning, ask the questions. Are there any wetlands on this property? And then you as a commission, again, make sure that we're preserving our Florida life. So thank you, and let's do this again sometime.
Thank you, ma'am. Heather Elko.
Just one more thank you to you. I budgeted and timed myself and tried to be brief, and I really didn't get to adequately thank you for having this workshop. And I do hope that you will have it again. The suggestion of maybe a little bit more of a window would be wonderful for suggestions. And I know you're busy. You've got a lot of big stuff on your minds, But I hope some of these ideas will stick with you, and we're really very, very grateful for this time tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am. That's most kind of you. We appreciate happy words. Dana Blickley.
Good evening. Dana Blickley, 3425 Heron Lane. Part of my comments are going to be related to my role as property appraiser. Part of them are going to be related to as a citizen, as a taxpayer of this county. The first thing I'd like to recommend, and I actually sent Jill an email, I can't remember if I copied Frank or not, but the budget workshop that you guys had in February, unfortunately I couldn't be here. I was in Tallahassee at a legislative conference. But that comes at a time when we don't have any information from you. So it's hard for us to give you substantive information if you're needing that going forward with your budget process. So I suggested that maybe you set those at least for constitutionals in March or at a time when you have most of the mandates that you're going to give us, because that's where we start our budget process. So that just to me would make much more sense. So I'm going to take you back to prior to 23, because 23 was a dismal year for the relationship between some of the constitutional offices and this board. Maybe not particularly the members that sit here, but certainly the tone. And while it was bad, I don't believe it was done in good faith. There's always good out of bad, all right? That's how I choose to live. So the bad was it appeared to be a contentious relationship between those that are responsible for setting tax rates, establishing budgets, and those of us that are a part of that process, when the truth is, in the past, it wasn't contentious at all. As a matter of fact, when it came timely in the year, we were able to share with the county commission and brag, if you will, what was going on in our constitutional offices, what efficiencies we had done, changes we had done, legislative mandates that were coming our way that, of course, you were having to fund. So that wasn't always a bad process, and I would certainly like to see it get back to that spirit, if you will. Having said that, I do have some recommendations, and I'm going to tell you just from experience. So prior to becoming property appraiser, I worked there for 20 years. So I had a pretty good idea about discover, listing, and valuing properties in this county. But my name wasn't on the door, so that meant that I followed the policies of the property appraiser at the time and management at the time, which I was a part of. But I can tell you, when I came in the door, I knew that I was coming after the cusp of the bubble. We all lived through that, a time when the property appraiser's office was bloated. It had 159 people doing, and I would say providing less services than 106 people now do that. And we weren't able to do that without looking at ourselves hard and coming up with some changes where we knew we would be in a place like this, 11 cycles of appreciation and property values, new construction everywhere, and we certainly wanted to do that as efficient as we could and at the least cost to taxpayers. So if you'll just bear with me one more minute. Commissioner Chair was with me during that process, so he could probably speak to you guys if you had questions on how we did it. But one of the things that we did out of the gate is there were 20% of the staff that found other opportunities before I came to be the property appraiser, and there were 13 other individuals we helped find their way out of the property appraiser's office, and it came through looking at who was producing a work product. If I had a director that was supervising a manager and a manager that was supervising a department, I can tell you that one of those managers went. I was able to streamline that and make the organization much flatter. Okay, so I might take a manager that wasn't producing a work product and create 2 field appraisers that could pick up $1.8 billion worth of new construction. Redundancy. If you don't look at your processes and if you've been at the helm for a long time, we do things that we're comfortable with in the way that we do it. And I can tell you that through improvement processes, we found redundancy in the property appraiser's office. We found things that we were annotating during our mapping process that our appraisers weren't using, and it was done strictly for the appraisers. We found uniformity, areas where we could create more uniformity. We are geographically challenged, just like everybody in this room. We've got 4 offices. We found redundancy and uniformity in making sure that people that were providing our services in Titusville were the same as in Palm Bay. The users became more powerful because our tools became more powerful. So with a lot of those folks that were no longer working for us, a lot of those reoccurring dollars were substituted with a one-time expense. So we acquired a $1.8 million computer system without coming to the taxpayers for a single cent. Okay, very proud of that. You'll find quality control measures whenever you look at the way you're doing things. You know, we're all very comfortable with what we know, but sometimes we have to take a look within ourselves, and fresh eyes are good for that. Less errors being made, more errors being found through filters. So one thing that I would offer to you is, yes, even though it was a contentious process for us in '23, I don't think it should be. I don't think it's best for the residents of this county. And certainly it is not best for this board and the constitutionals when we don't have a good spirit of cooperation. So I would like to see the timing of a few things change so we can have more substantive conversations. Okay.
Are there questions for the property appraiser? Just, so homestead season ended.
Homestead season ended today, but it hasn't ended yet. You can still file online until midnight.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
very, very good. And I forgot to ask the tax collector, just since you're here, taxes are due. In April, they're late. Is that right?
They become delinquent April 1st.
Okay, so you have until April Fool's Day to pay your taxes before they're late.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Everybody pay your taxes. Actually, you've collected most of it by now, haven't you?
There is a good portion of it that has been collected.
Yes. Okay.
We're nearing around, I would say we're nearing 90-some%. We're getting close.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, I'd like a 5-minute break. We've got about 9 cards left. Okay. So let's try to keep it to 5 minutes. Quick break. still have some comment cards. Susan Connolly. Susan Connolly.
Thank you all. Again, I want to thank you all for this process. I think this workshop has been invaluable for me in the audience. I think that might be one of the unintended positives, is that citizens here may also get on board with solutions they've heard and maybe even educate us on what some of the issues are that are facing you all and have a little compassion for you. So thank you, and continue this. I also think another positive outcome might be, I know Commissioner Atkinson is trying to fill all these advisory boards, and here is I've heard many people say, I want to be part of the solution, me included, both hands. I want to talk a little bit about the process. I like that when I submitted my recommendation, I could go in and see that I had my recommendation from 2024 was there, and it kind of reminded me, and I like that. The recommendations are identified by CEER numbers. I would like to see my name and the other people's name and contact information because, again, it gives me insight and motivation to do something, and I would like to be able to contact some of these people here. I would also like to see, as part of an outgrowth of this, that where we, the citizens, are contacted, and there's some means of continual communication throughout the year. Communication that would involve what the commissioners have decided. I think some of these solutions are ongoing and won't be overnight, so again, having that continual communication would be very good. I would like to see the communication written and posted, again, where citizens who participate or don't could learn from the website or wherever this information will be. It is the only disappointing thing for me as a citizen is 77 recommendations. I was thrilled to see that. But when I walked in, there are only 11 speakers. So I don't know if that is because this process is so new and the workshop is so new that there was confusion in my mind how to register. I wanted to make sure I'd speak and how long and all of that, and I wanted to be acknowledging of your time as well, because if 77 had all, or 66 had all showed up and spoken, it would be more than a 5-minute bathroom break that we would need. So I don't know the resolution to that, but let's put our heads together on that. So again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. Christina Fisher.
Good evening. Lease terns are listed by the state of Florida as threatened. Least terns winter in Central and South America and return to the U.S. in spring to breed. At one time, Florida had many colonies of breeding least terns, but due to extensive development along the coast, there are only limited beaches still suitable for least tern breeding. As a result of the loss of their beach breeding grounds, many least terns began using flat-top roofs of commercial buildings, but only those buildings with gravel roofs are used for breeding. Unfortunately, most of those gravel roofs have been re-roofed with newer materials not suitable for breeding terns. But there is a possible solution that is both easy and cost-effective. Many large cities, such as New York and Atlanta, offer tax incentives to building owners who install or convert their roofs to living roofs, also known as green roofs. Living roofs are engineered to allow the placement of a soil layer, the planting of grasses, flowers, shrubs, and even small trees. Living roofs have many benefits. They reduce runoff, reduce HVAC and electricity costs, and increase the lifespan of the roof by up to 100%. Their aesthetic value cannot be underestimated. Many high-rise dwelling buildings lists their rooftop garden as an important amenity. However, to improve the chances for breeding success for our least terns would only require a much smaller investment. A thin layer of sand and gravel is all the birds need. The building owners would not have to invest in soil irrigation, plants, or special leak detection systems, and only minor annual maintenance would be necessary. The cost to the property owner would be minimal compared to the cost for the standard green roof. In order to convince property owners to make the changes needed, the county should consider offering monetary incentives such as real estate tax credits. Additionally, I think that providing some type of recognition, such as a plaque, certifying the roof as helping endangered birds, would be beneficial. Many businesses like to let the general public know that they are trying to be good environmental stewards. The Starbucks in downtown Disney has a green roof because Starbucks appreciates the goodwill that this engenders. Brevard County has dozens of volunteers, some of them in the room, who've spent hundreds of hours every year trying to help least terns successfully raise their young. Please consider helping us to help them. Thank you. Does anybody have a question?
Commissioner Delaney for a question.
I had the opportunity of going to a presentation. I believe we met there.
Yes.
At the Brevard Zoo this
For the
past
Shorebird
week.
Alliance, yeah.
Right. And this is a really cool idea, and I bet there are probably a lot of businesses out there
We
that
just
would be
need to get
interested.
somebody to give them the little push to get them on board.
Right.
I mean, a standard living roof is still a great idea, but it's expensive and it requires a lot of maintenance, a lot of engineering. You've got to take the extra weight of the soil, the extra weight of the trees. This is just a little sand and pebbles. I mean, honestly. You don't need
Where would be some of the ideal places for
Well,
these roofs to be?
several years ago, I noticed driving by one day, taking my husband to a doctor's appointment, that the U-Haul self-storage building in Merritt Island by the mall, I saw, 100 least terns flush off the roof, and I went, hey, what's going on? They must be nesting up there. I spoke to Catherine, who's here, Vecchio, who helps with the Shorebird Alliance, and she said that roof wasn't on their list.
Wow.
So I monitored that roof with the help of multiple volunteers. We spent hundreds of hours checking the roof because unfortunately the roof didn't have any systems to keep the babies from falling off. So whenever there was a hard rain, birds came down. So I, along with all these other volunteers, we checked after every hard rain. We checked 3 times a day. Any birds, baby birds on the ground, we put back up with a crazy chickaboom system, which also Catherine helped with, so that the parents could take care of them. Some of the birds sadly drowned coming through the gutters, but, at least we saved some of them, okay?
Right.
So we put in hundreds of hours, right, trying to save these birds. Places like that, we invested a lot of time. Florida Fish and Wildlife has somebody who deals with this. She tried for a long time to get somebody at U-Haul to talk to us. No go, they wouldn't have anything to do with us. And after that year, they did something to deter the birds from using that roof again, so they have not been back, sadly. So we need to get somebody who can get business owners to see the value of doing this, right? And, maybe give them a little incentive to do it. I think U-Haul's thinking from their standpoint of what did they get out of this? Nothing but extra trouble, right?
Right.
So, if we could figure out some way to get them to understand that there is a value to this and they can use it in their advertising. I mean, if you go to Cocoa Village, every little shop says dog friendly. You know why? Because everybody wants to walk their dog in Cocoa Village, and they sell a lot more stuff if you can bring your dog in that shop, right? So we need to convince give them a plaque saying this building helps save endangered birds, or whatever you think is a suitable thing to say.
Awesome. Thank
Okay.
you.
I think Commissioner Altman.
Well, I love those terns, and we do need to protect them. And you wonder, I know we acquire land for conservation, and maybe we need to somehow, and there's conservation easements that we provide, maybe we need to kind of purchase rooftops or give
a great idea, if
grants
we
to
can, yeah.
landowners. So like you mentioned, tax abatements is a good idea. Are you aware of any research that has been done by universities or engineering firms on the type of structures, the architectural design, or the type of roof that you would need?
Okay, not this specific roof. There's lots of engineering done on the standard green roof, right, that has grasses and flowers. This is a much, but that doesn't mean, I'm fully able to find an engineering firm and bullying them into giving me what we need.
Yeah.
I already bullied my husband's friend, who's a professional roofer, into giving me a lot of information.
I've heard that the gravel roofs that used to be so common and
They're all being replaced.
Representative
They're-
Goodson
yeah.
in my day. But one reason I thought they lost, I've heard they lost flavor because in a bad hurricane, the rocks are blown off. You know,
Well,
they become,
Any flat roof is going to take, if you get a hurricane-type rain, is going to
Yeah.
have an issue, right?
right.
But the newer systems they have are lighter, and they're less likely to leak.
Mm-hmm.
It's too expensive to re-gravel the roof. You know, they used to redo them, but
Right.
now it's cheaper to just pull that off and put in these new, I think they spray them on.
Yeah,
It's some kind of foam.
Right.
But, you know, so they're no longer suitable. But if you just threw some sand on there, they would suddenly become suitable again. But even, sadly, the Space Force and Kennedy Space Center, they put deterrents on their roofs. They have suitable roofs. And I happen to have a badge because I volunteer at the Missile Museum. So I check those roofs all the time. And historically, they were in fact used by least turns. They all have deterrents to keep the turns from using those roofs. And I feel a little distressed that the federal government is not helping more with, you know, endangered birds, right? Or technically threatened.
One thing we do have is the Canaveral National Seashore and the Cape Kennedy Space Force.
I go to the
And
Cape, there's a place I
Space Force.
check, they do occasionally have nesting least terns. There are a lot of areas inside there that I can't go to because they're just essentially off limits, right, to everybody who's not security. So I don't know if there are any additional areas that have them. I assume, just based on my knowledge of birds, I'm a birder, an avid birder, that if you go north of Playa Linda, there's a very long stretch of beach between Playa Linda and Apollo Beach up in New Smyrna, that probably, you know, has some. But at one time, all the Florida coast was just, you know, and the birds made the switch to the gravel roofs successfully, right? Because they no longer had their historic breeding grounds available. Unfortunately, now the gravel roofs are going too, so they're really kind of in trouble.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Is it any gravel in particular, or is it just any gravel?
Well, I think probably a mixture of, and unfortunately, I have done some research. There's not as much known about breeding least terns as one would think. I mean, kind of surprisingly. But since they use beaches, you know, I'm guessing a layer of sand would probably do the trick. Some beaches are gravelly, which is why the gravel probably appeals to them. You know, it kind of seems like a beach. There are certain other requirements. There does have to be a source of food. Obviously, if they're hatching chicks, they need to feed them. So there has to be a river, or like the U-Haul is very close to the Banana River, so they could just, you know, grab fish out of the Banana River and bring them back. If you had a building in the middle, nowhere near any water, it probably wouldn't be work no matter what you did to the roof, right? You would have certain things you'd have to look at. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Beth Blackford? Beth? Oh.
I yield my time.
Oh. We appreciate the gentlewoman yielding her time back. Okay, Sandra Sullivan.
All right. Sandra Sullivan. So I found an article the other day on Wayback Machine by the Brevard Citizens Coalition. And they were the ones that pushed the idea of Speak Up Brevard and got our charter changed. And so just for clarity, the citizens' efficiency and effectiveness recommendations is where the word CEER comes from. This is Doge, right? So relating to their article, Speak Up Brevard allows citizens to submit ideas which would assist county government in conserving energy, saving costs, eliminating duplication, generating revenue, increasing productivity, or preventing waste. So I want to talk a little bit about the latter idea of generating revenue. So I have a document here. This is a federal document. It's called Taxation in Federal Areas, and it clearly states that when federal land is leased to private entities, that the local government has the right to negotiate taxation. And I'm going to send an email to all of you. It's page 7. I think we need to look at this, given the condition of the county right now and the challenges that we're facing. I also want to talk about embeds specifically. So this binder is from the Brevard Coalition, and it is all on embeds. And there's a number of controversies. And one of the things is embeds was supposed to be an enterprise zone. That's what one of the things that was purported and promised, but it is not. So, because I looked on the state site, and it is not listed as one of Florida's enterprise zones. Of concern to me, fiscally, what they talked about a lot, and one of their major concerns is that this was taking tax dollars from the general fund that was not available to the needs of the county. And so when I calculated out, 71% of the general fund revenue of commercial and industrial areas, it excludes residential and ag, we're losing that revenue. So those costs in District 1 have to come somewhere else, or maybe they just don't have enough to do things. So if you look at, you got Station 23, which is a condemned building up there for our firefighters, and it's just sitting there and it's not being addressed, and you got these guys all piled into one station from 2 stations. Anyway, there's other number of very alarming inconsistencies, including the monies from the tax increment, the amount going into the budget exceeding what the tax increment is. So there'll be a number of details and a number of emails coming out on this. So my request is rescind or take the ordinance and sunset embeds. It was only supposed to be for 5 years. And let's tax Space Florida, since they're now pulling on us for resources. And lastly, I just want to say kudos, Katie. This came to life today, hearing people's ideas. This starts the collaborative process. This is hearing from the people, and this is so what we wanted to see and just be heard. It makes a huge difference to the frustration that a lot of us are feeling. Thank you. Kudos, Katie.
Thank you very much. Michael Myjak? I say that right, sir? Or is it Myak? Myjak.
I have a presentation to pull up, if they could bring it up for me.
It's electronic.
It's electronic presentation, yes. How do I control it with the mouse, maybe?
Looks like that computer fell asleep.
I don't, that was probably the voice in the sky.
I think Logan's working on it.
I'm not sure which presentation it is.
Does it show up on this monitor as well? I can't read that.
It's on the top right.
Okay.
We have the technology, just maybe not the capability. There we go. Can we hit play? Yes. Arrow
You can
keys.
advance
Yay,
with
okay,
arrows.
good, good. I'm Michael Myjak, and I'm here as a representative of the Indian River Lagoon Roundtable. And I want to talk to you about a very big picture problem. And I know your eyes are all glazed over. You've been doing this for an hour or two, but I really want to talk to you about something that's important. When we started really building here in the 60s, we had a fishing industry that was world class. The Indian River Lagoon fishery was second to none. It's not here today. Part of the reason is back in the day, we had this thing called Banana Creek that used to connect the top of the Banana River and the Indian River Lagoon, and it allowed them to flow, and we had great fishing. It was really wonderful. We had oysters, and we had all kinds of interesting critters and creatures and charismatic beings that live out here that is a definition of Florida residents and our quality of life. I want you to think about not just the charismatic ones and the little babies, but everything that's out here. This friend of mine, Laura Lee, told me once that she would sit down on the dock and watch a school of mullet pass by, and it would take 20 minutes. 20 minutes for one school to pass. Not today. Why is that? Back to Banana Creek. The space industry happened. Now, you've heard of doing stupid after bad. That's kind of what our stormwater is these days. This is kind of what happened here. We didn't know what the effects were going to be when NASA came out here with their DDT and our pond filling and, well, the North Indian River Lagoon, north of Banana Creek, is a disaster. And it's because we have cut off the flow between our lagoon, both north and south. And I want you to see, it isn't just the mosquito estuaries and the stuff that comes out in our stormwater. It is the water itself is poisonous in an estuary. Now, the St. Johns River Water Management District, they only deal with fresh water. They don't deal with saline water. So they don't look at it. It's the biggest input in our lagoon and our estuary, and why it's dying, and why the manatees are dying, and why our recreational capabilities are dying. Now, the quality of life that we have here is being threatened because there are many large entities. The Department of Defense is one. NASA is another. You, the Brevard County Commission, you're in a unique position to create what I've asked for is a Space Force task force to coordinate how we're going to grow our port, how we're going to intermodal that with rail. And now, pentamode, space flight, commercial space flight, in a way we've never seen before. You've got tens of thousands of new jobs coming. You're going to need housing. All of these places and people and groups are affected, and you need to bring them all together to plan our future. If we have a hope of creating synergy with nature and our quality of life, and the tsunami of growth coming from the space industry, without proper planning, it's going to tank. We're going to lose it all. And so I want you to think about the resources responsible and needed for accelerated growth. I'll give you one, groundwater. I did a study with the St. Johns River in '96 to look at putting a desal plant in the IRL. We started out hoping to get 30 million gallons a day. We ended up with a study less than 5 because our model showed the lagoon was dead in 2 years. You can't go to the IRL for desal unless you take the effluent somewhere else. Out to the Gulf Stream is what we came up with. It was the only viable solution. 30 million gallons a day produced 720 10 cubic yard dump trucks full of dry salt a day. We're not set up for that. We're not set up for a sewage plant that's going to treat this county. Titusville's plant's going to be underwater in 30 years. You want to put one in Port St. John to serve the Space Center. Well, what about Palm Bay? They're all on septics. We need a regional solution for potable water, for storm water, for sanitary sewer, for all of our concurrency items. And the space growth has to pay for that. We need to make sure that we are taxing ourselves accordingly so that our impact fees are covered to supplant these concerns. We need a task force that includes you taking the lead. You have the world-renowned space center in your backyard. and they're home here now to play. We have to take charge and take lead. Somebody needs to lead this task force, and I hope it will be you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Celeste Corrado?
Good evening. My name is Celeste Corrado. I'm a resident of Cocoa, and I have just a couple comments or suggestions on Speak Up Brevard, and I hope you don't mind me at least talking through those. First of all, I am totally excited by what I saw here. It is indeed the first time I've seen the objective be citizen engagement. And the second piece of this thing is I've seen even in the 77 submissions and the people in the room, you've tapped into the collective intelligence of the community. This is a really smart community with lots of skills and lots of expertise. And I have no doubt if we collaborate between the county and the citizens, that some amazing things can be done. We're already starting to see signs of that. So I want to thank you. I think this is the most encouraging thing I've seen in the couple of years that I lived here. So I just had a couple of suggestions because I'm really hoping the program will evolve, and I want to sort of paint a picture of both the tactical and strategic sort of potential that it might go in, just to, throw out some ideas. The first one, we heard a lot of comments from Susan and Sandra Sullivan, too, about some of the tips, the practical tips, which is, a little better on the communication thing. It was really hard to sort of navigate that website and get all the pieces of information as a newbie to the process. We heard about extending the time frame. We heard about a really good suggestion from Susan on allowing some of the submissions to be transparent, so there would be collaboration among the ideas. So when they came to you, you might see 2 or 3 different people sort of combining their ideas. And so all those things are the practical tips that I think would help us as citizens understand what it is you're looking for. The second tier of recommendations was basically, you can help shape the submissions that come in. And I would suggest you do that because I know that it's probably a huge burden to take in all these submissions and review them. So that would be make the criteria for submission explicit so we know what you're looking for. What are the top 5 to 7 really hard problems you're facing? Let us get into it. I know we have the expertise somewhere in our community to help solve some of those. So not just keeping it open to broadly submissions, but also on really big challenge problems. So maybe thinking about shaping how you get those instructions out to us might give you some really good things back into you. So then on the strategic level, what I want to say, and I'll end on this point, is a little broader thinking about where the program could go. What I just talked about is actually the basics of an incubator, of basically, the county and the citizen incubator. And if you thought a little bit more broadly about where that could go and actually designing like an incubator, I'm thinking you can actually get beyond current day problems and start thinking about future problems. So on that end, I just want to say thank you so much. And I am the first time ever encouraged by what I see here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Catherine Vecchio. Is it Vecchio or Vecchio? Vecchio. I know we met once before, but I didn't remember exactly how to say it.
Hello,
Thank you.
I'm Catherine Vecchio, and I just learned about this event on Friday, so I'm not too prepared, but I first came to this the county commissioners during the time of Kurt Smith, where he then tasked me to reach out about my topic. And my topic has been about finding habitat for the least turn, of which you just spoke about. So as a volunteer with the Florida Wildlife Commission, Florida Shorebird Alliance, I had found that we as volunteers, we're having to look to the skies, to rooftops, to help this bird species. So I felt it was beyond me to think that that's the way it should be. We do so much in our community to help the manatees, to grow oysters. Now we're into clams, and now we're trying to grow grass. But I feel that my recommendation was to go to the eels. I went to eels. Eels Community, the advisory board tasked me to read all the management plans. I read them all. And in those management plans, I found notices that specified that there were regions within our eels, lands that would be adaptable to habitat for shorebirds and seabirds nesting. But as our nitrogen levels have increased, our spoil islands are now becoming overgrown with native vegetation, non-native vegetation. So at the time that those management plans were written, they would have accommodated wildlife. But now, with all regulations that evolve, we can't get, the land is not clear, the sand is not there for them to nest. So I know, I think someone earlier had asked, so back to eels. So with the help of the advisory board to direct me, and with Mike Knight's commitment, he did find an area within one of the eels properties, but only through grant money will they allow what's now looking to be the norm is a raised platform. A raised platform is going to kind of be similar to what a rooftop is, but for us as volunteers, when we have to monitor a rooftop, just like was explained earlier, when that bird falls off, we don't always get cooperation with building owners, so we have to put the bird up on the roof. So there is a plan through the University of Florida. There is something with American Bird Conservancy. They are trying to develop a program to have such like an incubator to develop new roofing ideas. So I personally feel like I wish the birds could have the ground and do their native thing, but because of we have so many predators that are combined and packed into certain small spaces that the species can't thrive because you've got predation from the sky, predation from the ground, but they deserve a place to live too. So what I don't know to think about, this could be a revenue generator. Can I continue? So this could be a revenue generator because by the time the chicks hatch out, it's out of season. Like now we're lucky to have the birding festival come back to Merritt Island, but this could be a draw. When I first saw a chick on the ground from afar I was with Florida Wildlife Commission and saw them through a scope. It's unbelievable how they protect themselves as a colony. And we do everything to protect our ospreys. We give ospreys these platforms on top of poles that we're not doing our part for this bird that is a native of this state. And when that bird leaves and that bird leaves and comes back, all its habitat is gone, and then the rooftops are gone. So if you were to get access to the Florida Shorebird Alliance database, you can see that they had started taking data in 2012. So rooftops have doubled since 2012 to 2024. And there could be other rooftops. Unfortunately, the ground nests occur in construction sites. We can't see them. We only hope that they are following FWC guidelines and they have environmental consultants on board. But I don't know exactly how or what with you as a new commission could help direct this. Mike Knight has been very helpful. It's not in the budget to build a platform. So if there is to be a platform, it's going to have to come through grants. Okay, and I get it, Department of Natural Resources. I'm also attending the Citizens Academy this year. And so I do try to bring it up to every director that we have the opportunity to speak to, that if I felt it was applicable. I did have some questions for Mr. Abate at the time and met a lot of them so far, and I'm enjoying that. But it's like, I don't want to be a can kicked down the road, but this species has been here long before any of us have been here, and we are neglecting them because they fly away, we don't see them, they come back, and then we are at the mercy of private property owners. So the Air Force has the BASH document, Bird Airstrike Hazard Protocol, that they'll follow, so they have the ability to stop birds. I hear them in the morning, I hear the blowhorns going off, clearing the runway. I'm not saying I want to hurt, have any harm to our service members, but They have open space. The birds are attracted to it. They have gravel rooftops because governments don't move as quick to change out their rooftops. So along with her recommendations, I don't know how this could be a think tank kind of thing. How can we help this species when it comes back? And it's coming. They're coming. Just like winter's coming, but the birds will be here within, I'd say, the next four to 6 weeks. But we appreciate everything that Mike Knight and the Eels Department has done, but I've been coming and speaking to different, not to the new commissioners, but since when Kurt was county commissioner. Now I think he sits as an advisor on that board for eels. So I think we got to pay attention more to our shorebirds and seabirds. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sarah Skywind, is that right?
Yes.
Very good.
How are you? Thank you. I wasn't planning on talking tonight, but but here I am. Somebody help me get up here. Okay. I'm the co-founder of Brevard Barkhouse. We are a nonprofit rescue for animal rescue team that would like the request the use of the building located at 2605 Flake Road, which is in Titusville. That will be a topic on the agenda for the 11th. So I'm a little premature on it, but it's really important to us. So it is already set up as an animal shelter, but is sitting vacant. I have spoken with code enforcement and facilities department about our interest. In the building. We hope to build a strong relationship with both departments. It will be a great space for our community to gather as we help ease the strain of existing shelters like the Brevard County Animal Shelter. It will be a place for the community can find their new best friend, volunteer, and gain education on topics like behavior, health, nutrition, enrichment, and safety for their pet. The building has approximately 38 kennels, and our plan is to operate at 75% capacity. So we can make sure we have an area for sick animals and also have the room to aid other shelters of their overflow. Our approach is unique. We would like to provide each animal with a space resembling a home instead of a concrete cold kennel. Each animal will have a set schedule for let-outs, feedings, and training. It will make their transition into their permanent home much easier. Just to give you a little background on me and my co-founder, we were Florida raised and love Brevard County. We are not just animal lovers. This is our passion. In the last 6 months, we have aided in finding permanent loving homes for 52 dogs, have worked with local feed and pet stores to get over 6,000 pounds of food to animals in need, as well as collect over 3,000 pounds of other items like bedding, enrichment items, and grooming products. We are two people that feel it's our responsibility to serve the community the best we can, and allowing us to use this building will give us the possibilities to do that.
Ma'am, I worked in North County for a while. Tell me where this is again?
It's in Titusville, 2605. It's right by the little airport, the Dunn Airport. It's right behind there.
Okay. And who's the tenant of, or who's in that building now?
It's vacant right now.
Oh, okay. Who was there before you?
There was a private run shelter, it was Forever Home.
Is that a county? Is it a county facility?
Yes.
Yeah.
There used to be located there, but for a number of years, it's been occupied by a private, not-for-profit Forever Home, which recently left the facility, ended its lease.
Okay. We'll see you on March 11th? Is that what you said?
You'll see me in a couple days, too. I'll be here for that as well.
Oh, for the budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You preempted me on something. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Last one I have a card for is Kristen Lortie.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kristen Lortie, Cocoa resident, D1 staffer, and citizen advocate, local citizen advocate. I want to share a few appreciations and some advocacy. One, I so appreciate your vote to say yes for this workshop. Thank you for voting yes. Thank you, Commissioner Delaney, for spearheading this, and for everyone's participation, everyone out in the audience's participation in this program. It's really been amazing to hear all of the citizen advocacy, so I first want to appreciate your votes. I also want to, on the advocacy side, say that of the submissions that we received, of the 13 that were eliminated, there are 5 in particular that I'd like to draw your attention to, as I disagree with the county staff's elimination of those. And those had to do with the constitutional officers. So I believe that the constitutional officers belong in this room. We had 2 of them speak tonight. We were grateful to hear them. The citizens who want to speak on those topics, they belong here. The advocacy belongs here. I appreciate that the county staff is sending over the emails of those recommendations, but if those citizens want to speak, they should be included in this event, this first annual event since this was passed by the charter in 2010. So on their behalf, there were 5 of them, and all of them had to do with the shelters. They had to do with the county shelters, and so it's interesting that this comment piggybacks on the last speaker. But in particular, we had 2 that came in regarding stray holds, and I'd like to read a little bit about them because those residents aren't here tonight. The county shelter has not been abiding by the legal stray hold and has been returning cats to the field before the owners have a chance to reclaim them. One recent case is that of Snowflake. Her lottery date was set for today, but she was released on the 3rd, and now her owner cannot find her. The kitten came in with a pink bell collar, and I believe was microchipped yet still released. The second one says that while I think trap neuter return is a valuable resource for the cats of our county, the execution is simply awful. Cats are not kept on 5-day stray hold. Friendly cats are TNR'd without being a chance of adoption, and often cats are dropped off in a place that is not their home. Brevard needs to do better. Additionally, we had 2 that were very detailed. Those were CEERs, 011 and 012. These are people who know intimately what our shelter system is like, and I think that the sheriff's staff should, one, receive those, but then should be able to be represented. Those people represented, the sheriff, if they want to come in and participate in that, they should be able to do that, and I want those on file. And then lastly, when it comes to the logistics of the workshop, we had some confusion in our office. We had people calling who weren't exactly sure how this worked, and we have an agenda that just has names on it. What was requested is that we actually submit more information so that this could be informative. We had people calling in that said, we don't understand how this agenda works. We would like this to be corrected for the next session, and to let everybody know in the audience that when we go to vote, there will be another vote for this, and everybody can come in and needs to look for the staff comments that will be online prior to the meeting to see what the staff has done with all of this advocacy and to be welcomed back again. So I thank you for receiving my comments and for this workshop tonight.
Okay, thank you. Before we wrap up here with board reports, is there anyone else who wanted to speak that we didn't have a card for tonight? Okay. Okay, commissioners, we'll go into board reports. First, county manager, sir.
No report.
Morris.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Delaney.
Thank you. I have a report. So I just wanted to first thank my fellow board members for humoring me with this. I know that it took a little bit to help you guys see my vision for this, and I just really appreciate you all collaborating with me and working through this to get to this point where we had all of this collaboration and input from the public. It really means the world to me, and I thank you guys so much. And to the public, this is one of the things that I spoke about a lot throughout my campaign, and myself and my chief of staff, we were right outside this building about a year ago with about 40 people, front page on the news, talking about this program. And it's incredible to see so much input, and for everybody who came and spoke tonight, or just came to witness what happened tonight. It was extremely beautiful. This is exactly what government is intended to be, for the people, by the people. And I'm so encouraged by this, and I know, and I hope that this is the first of many. All of that being said, like many of the speakers had talked about, there was a lot of agenda confusion, and I had my staff send over an email almost immediately after the agenda first came out, with some suggestions, because I kind of anticipated the confusion, because when the agenda came out, it wasn't really clear according to the information on the agenda. And then with the citizen recommendations, letter C, it just had the CEER numbers. And for residents, it would have been really cool to just have like a short thing, what their CEER was about, rather than the numbers, so that if a citizen was interested, they could click on it and see more of what that was. And so I hope if we do this again, which I hope we do, that we can collaborate a little bit more on this. And the letters that were sent out to the public, I think were also another place where there was some confusion, because people were wondering why they had to RSVP, if they, it was just, we got a lot of feedback in my office that there was a lot of confusion, and I tried to talk with staff about it, and honestly, it wasn't super well received when I asked them about, hey, can we send out maybe another email or something to clarify. So what I did in my office was I had my staff call all of the individuals to let them know, please sign up. You are welcome. We want you here, all of that good stuff. And the one letter that got sent out to the people who didn't get included, I would have really liked to see in there that while their CEER is not maybe under our jurisdiction, that they could have still come and spoke during public comment. Because even if we're not over what their concern is, this is still an avenue where they can come and speak. And I actually reached out to some of the constitutional officers to get their opinion about them being included in the CEER program. And what they said to me is that this would have been an awesome opportunity for them to hear from the public, because they don't have these venues like this. And we're dedicating a night to do this anyway. And all that they asked was that maybe they could be part of it for those CEERs that were talked about. And they seem to be on board with that. So maybe that's something we could improve in the future. And then I guess my final thing is that after the budget season, like I had mentioned about the advisory boards, the Speak Up Brevard ordinance is something that I would like to see if we can improve. So thank you, and thank you everybody for being here tonight. Oh, you know what? I also have slides. I'm sorry about that. Logan, if you could help me with that. Thank you, Kristen. Okay, just because I'm blind, I can't see that far away. Where is it? There they are. Okay, so some people, they're going to be wondering what's next. What happens next with all of this citizen participation? So the county staff is going to continue their evaluation through the 120-day period. That started on February 1st. And then the staff recommendations will come to the Board of County Commissioners during a regular county commission meeting, and that date is still to be determined. Letters will be mailed to the participants a minimum of 7 days prior to the meeting. That way, they all know when to come and speak and fight for their item. The participants will be able to speak on their recommendations at this meeting. And you may also submit slides in advance to that meeting to accompany your recommendations, but you got to make sure to do it at least 24 hours ahead of time. And this will be, like I said, your opportunity to advocate for or against any of the CEER proposals. And then at that point, the Board of County Commissioners will vote to approve or deny the CEER recommendations at that meeting. And so what I would love to do is just encourage people to come to that meeting and fight for your item, speak for or against whatever you wish. And even if something doesn't get approved this time, I encourage you to continue on with your county commissioner, because like I believe it was Commissioner Feltner said that this is not the only opportunity you have. So if you really feel passionate about your idea and the answer was no, maybe there's a yes somewhere in there and you can work with your commissioner to find that yes. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. In board report, Commissioner Goodson. Commissioner Atkinson.
I just wanted to thank everybody who showed up tonight for all of your thoughts and for your solutions. And thank you to the staff for being here so late and for putting it all together.
Commissioner Altman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, as well, want to thank everyone. I thought it was really well done, very engaging, and very stimulating in terms of ideas, extremely positive input. I think you always get a lot more out of that, being positive and proactive and visionary. And it makes me realize as a body, you know, we have a lot happening in Brevard County. We're heading in an exciting direction, and maybe we need to take a look at planning and visioning and kind of seeing what direction we're going and how we can get there. I think we're going to have to look at the fiscal challenges, because everything that we try to do has a fiscal input, and I think this is a good model, and maybe as a board we can look at doing some visioning and seeing maybe really if we can make a big difference for the future of our county.
Thank you, sir.
And I hope in future meetings have some ideas. It's generated some ideas, and I'll be bringing them up in later meetings at our reports and seeing what you guys think of them.
I'll just say on a closing note, I appreciate kind words tonight, happy words. Those always much appreciated by the board. We don't always get happy words, so that's nice. Just as a reminder for the board and the public, we'll be back in this room on Thursday at 1 p.m. for the next budget workshop. And with that, I think we're done. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.